Okay, let's talk about it then. So as it's been, I think, 3 months since my last video about Burnley, which is actually quite a long time, really. A lot's happened since then, that I think that it's just about time that I did a video just going into the current situation and kind of what I think. I'm possibly the only Burnley fan that you may know on YouTube if you're not a Burnley fan, so let's talk about it. But of course, comment down below your thoughts and drop a like. 3,000 likes, that'd be great. And also subscribe if you're new, that'd be great as well. Oh yeah, and of course, Vizeh Designs, my design company. You know this by now. Link down below, top of the description, for the best prints for any club pretty much in the entirety UK. Code Burnley for 15% off. So when you watched my previous videos about Burnley, it may have come across a bit sort of negative because at that stage I was in the emotional side of it. But now I've gone way past that, and now I'm in complete acceptance. Worst part is that I actually had a plan after Luton at home to do a video titled along the lines of, if we won, to say that, you know, oh, Burnley are giving me hope again, or something like that. Of course, it didn't work out that way, and we conceded in the most saddest way I've ever seen. The reason why I'm doing this is because I'm kind of in a bubble of Burnley fans where we talk to Burnley fans and we kind of already know what people think. But when I talk about kind of what we think to other fans, they think that we're crazy. I get the same question on my comment sections or on my Twitter or Instagram every single other day, but every day actually now this day, saying should Kompany go? Like, is Kompany in or out or whatever, right? And no. And for a large chunk of Burnley fan base, still no. And for a lot of people, that's kind of crazy, because in reality, really any manager that is doing this for any club at this stage of the Premier League should be in serious doubt of being sacked, or should be already. But at Burnley, it's by far the opposite. He's completely stable and secure, which for me, I understand, and I'm for, but for everyone outside thinks it's insane. Do you think that the ownership of Burnley are being too grateful of having someone of the stature of Vincent Kompany at the club, almost in a way of being seen as bigger than the club? That kind of no matter what they do, that they're always seen as the saviour. So let me go into just some questions that I have, which I've seen, which I don't understand is still being made. There's still some mistakes that I'm still seeing, which I don't really know why, and or things that has happened that is maybe a clear oversight. I'm not too sure. So basically, we are very important on playing fullbacks. So we this year have opted to play what was seen as our backup right back in the Championship, and our main right back has been completely kicked out, and then our backup left back that wasn't seen as good enough for the Championship is now seen as our main left back, and then who was our main left back, of course, didn't get replaced because he was a loan. So the two left backs and right backs that wasn't seen good enough as our starters for the Championship are now seen as our main starters for the Premier League. That is, of course, in Charlie Taylor and Coutinho. By the way, I think Taylor is actually good enough to be a Premier League left back. However, in a way that we typically wanted to play, he wasn't really a play that would fit how a Vincent Kompany team would play, which is a lot more dynamic in that type of position. So that's one question. And then, of course, we've clearly needed a fullback for a while because Martin went, and that was a clear spot missing. So what we did is that we didn't get a single fullback in the summer, and in January we got one right back, but not a left back. So now we're playing who was our second choice right back in the Championship, now at left back, in Coutinho. So that's just one strange thing. Next thing is players that we had last season that the fans made a pretty strong connection to, just kind of not being given a chance, or kind of just being thrown away, or players that we thought would be seen to be a big part of the season, just kind of not there at all. There's quite a lot of these. That's kind of strange to see. So I think the most obvious one is the likes of Manuel Benson and Anna Saruri, who was our main two attackers last year, alongside Nathan Tella, who of course was on loan. We tried to bring him back, but we just couldn't pay the amount that Southampton wanted, but instead spent more money on what they wanted to bring in Mike Trezor, which of course barely even plays. Now, it's not been a case of they've been given a chance and just wasn't good enough, because they weren't given a chance really at all. Emmanuel Benson made some more sense. He had an injury, keeping him out to, I believe, late November, maybe early December. People are expecting to be back in the squad, at least on the bench, and absolutely nowhere to be seen. And in the January window, seemed to be going on loan. Kompany begged him to stay, apparently, convinced him to stay, and since the window shut, he's not been in any of the two squads since. So that makes no sense. And then, of course, there's Josh Cullen, who was not just the player of the year, but fans player of the year last year, seen as our main key part of our entire squad, the heartbeat of our team in that CDM number 4 role, kind of seen as a Rodri role at City. He was absolutely everything about how he wanted to play in a championship, but in the Premier League, not even close. He started in the first couple of games of the year. We weren't particularly great. He wasn't particularly that great, but neither was anyone. And since then, since I want to say about September, I don't think he's played once in the league. Muric, who was a goalkeeper, who's still at the club, but he's now as a second goalkeeper. And James Trafford, who is definitely a keeper which does split a lot of opinion, despite him being definitely... he's got some talent in there. He's definitely a talented keeper when it comes to shot stopping. He is still quite young, and to be a squad trying to fight for survival, having your base, your foundation built on a young goalkeeper is obviously something quite risky. As it stands, Burnley are currently 19th, which we've pretty much been 19th now for the last, I think, 2-3 months now, maybe longer than that. We've only won one game at home the entire year, a 5-0 win to Sheffield United, and then we've not won a single game other than that at home. However, there was or is some hope. As a supporter of any team, you want to see progress. You want to see progress within your club, and you want to see that you actually are seeing something change. If it's tactically with players, you want to see that there is some improvement here. Burnley weren't great by any means at the start of the season, and of course it looks like we're not that great now, but we have, performance-wise, been better, because we beat Sheffield United 5-0, and then we had Wolves away next, who back then wasn't particularly a great side, still around the bottom 3, so that was seen as a huge game, a huge opportunity. This has to be it. You've got to take advantage now when you got some momentum, and of course we lost, and we lost in another way that just looked quite sad. Conceding in the first half by yet again another error at the back. Brighton away up next, got a draw, 1-1 draw away from home, which was incredible for us at that stage. And we showed maybe some hope of actually being somewhat defensively resolute, of actually sticking into a game. And then we lost to Everton at home, which was very toxic. And then we actually beat Fulham away, and then things kind of changed. A bit of hope came up here. Beating Fulham came out of literally nothing, and we saw some hope of actually playing some counter-attacking football. But then, of course, when we had some hope, the next game is, of course, against top 6 side, which is Liverpool. And then came Villa, which was a... this is potentially the performance of the season so far, and we still lost the game. The penalty at the end of that game was, remarkable, to say the least. There was also a handball call as well in that game that wasn't given when Foster would have been through on goal, and that wasn't given. Again, VAR and referee inconsistencies is fun. Luton at home. You've got to beat Luton at home if you have any hope of staying up. We went 1-0 up, and then the goal that we conceded, if you haven't seen it, please look it back. I've not really said my thoughts on this online much, because I don't really know what to think about it. In my opinion, it's just sad. I think the keeper should have been stronger. And of course, last weekend, Fulham at home, and then 2-0 down. Yeah, funny. But we actually showed some fight. And the kind of consistency is that we have some fight there. We have got better. But it's just not enough, unfortunately. And by the time it is enough, it could be too late. We've brought in 3 players, all 3 loans, as we probably shouldn't be spending too much money, as we could be going down likely. On Dacho Fofana, the Chelsea loanee, Maxime Estiva, centre-back from Montpellier, and Assignon from Stade Rennais. All 3 of them played against Fulham. 2 of them were subbed on, and they were all pretty good. But the first half in the game was very poor. Incredibly poor, actually disastrously poor. So yeah, I've kind of already accepted the fact that we are probably going down here. And that is kind of weird to say already in February, but in reality, I kind of already felt this way probably in November. The Premier League is, of course, a really tough league, as even teams that are 18th, 17th have spent hundreds of millions of pounds. Like, people see Bournemouth as like a small club, but they've spent a ton of money. Like, even the small clubs spend a ton of money. But of course, there's Luton, who I'm going to do a video on very soon, that they are absolutely everything that you should want in a club in England in general. They are the shining light and are the model for any club to try to replicate, that you can still be successful without a ton of money. And I've always kind of stayed consistent that if Burnley can't stay up this year, then God, I really hope that Luton somehow still does.